add maybe they add a debuff after every attack or whatever. So it just basically gives your monsters a little bit more kick to them. But yeah, it just adds a little bit more variety. So you know, if you're using the Flame Eagle guy and I'm using the Flame Eagle guy, we can still have a little bit of customization there because we can shift them either light way or dark way. So
Do you get any monsters later on that help you, like you mentioned debuffs, right? Like I know I got that thing that looks like a turnip or something that helps you. It just but only removes one debuff at a time. So do you get monsters that like remove all debuffs at a time, or was that strictly just potion stuff?
the most that I got is one of the abilities is called recovery. I know there's a cat monster that has it. There's this kind of elephant rat looking thing that has it. But basically the recovery spell, a lot of things have it, but the recovery spell heals you and at level 1 removes, I think, 1 debuff, but it can go all the way up to level 5. So it can remove up to 5 debuffs if you've
Oh,
maxed
so it's
out that
just
ability.
leveling up. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so each time you level up the ability, if you look at the abilities, the different levels, depending on the ability, sometimes it's more flat damage. Sometimes it'll be adding an extra attack to the combo. So, and sometimes you'll notice the damage goes down, but the attack combo goes up by 1, so the total damage is higher. And combos are super important because every attack that you do will create a combo meter, and then depending on what your current combo is, it'll add damage to attacks, or I think it'll even add healing. I'm not quite sure, but I think it does. But it buffs your attacks. So whichever monster goes last, it's going to have the strongest attack. So it's good to think about what order you want them to attack in. And sometimes, for example, the recovery spell heals 5 times. So it does 5 iterations of the heal. And sometimes if I have, I usually have the 2 monsters that have recovery on them. And all my monsters are fully healed, but I know that if I use recovery 2 times, I'll get a total of at least 10 on my combo. Plus, if I have any procs that, like for instance, I have one monster that when he recovers, he'll also do an extra heal on the lowest level, on whichever monster has the lowest life. So that can give me an extra proc for my combo and whatnot. And then my last monster, I just use like an attack that only hits 1 time, but hits really hard. But, his damage is amplified by 150% or 200% or whatever number. So then his attack can be much, much larger. So sometimes I'll do that where I'll not do any damage, but I just do whatever attack gives me the highest combo rating. So, uh, yeah. So that taking that into consideration is really important. Adding debuffs now, I've started to put a lot of defense on I have one monster that can poison things, so I maybe start with him and just make sure everybody has poison on him before pulling out, something that's going to hit harder. Just to get that extra damage on there. But yeah, it gets really tough, and it's funny because you're running around in the wild and you're like, okay, I've got this. I'm pretty solid. I'm doing really well. And then you get into a keeper battle, and just every monster is just way stronger. And the other thing that really kind of annoys me is in a keeper battle, when a monster is knocked out, it's instantly replaced with another one. 2 of my monsters, the 2 buffing monsters, one of their attacks is revive, and the revive ability is completely worthless in a keeper battle because you can't revive. You're just instantly replaced with the next one in your uh, queue, basically. So
Yeah, no, that is, you mentioned some good points as well, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, that's why, I mean, everyone would probably know, like Adam's gonna keep hammering away at it, whereas I just was like, nope. But you've given me some good ideas as well, and I think this is one of those games, and I've read about them when it comes to like turn-based tactics games, where it's unforgiving. You have to have like a plan, I guess, from the beginning, and it's not like in this game there are options to like reset your skills and stuff. So I think that's something I'll have to do. And like even the combo meter stuff is like, as you've explained, I'm like, oh, that really makes sense. And I mean, I put in like what 12, 13 hours into this, and I'm like, oh, now I understand combos because
yeah,
like when I'm at level 12 or level 13, right, I find it hard to get more than 2 stars in every fight.
yeah. No, the combo meters get you more stars. Another thing that'll get you more stars is if you add extra damage onto them. For instance, poison, because poison will hit them at the end of the round, and so it doesn't count towards your combo meter, but the more debuffs you have on them also count towards your stars. So poisoning everything and then attacking them can actually boost your rating because you're just doing so much damage each round. And other things you can, like statuses that you can put on them, like for instance freeze or shock. There are certain attacks that do extra damage if they are under the effect of freeze or shock. So for
Mhm.
instance, I have a lightning bolt that if they're under the effects of shock will hit them an additional 4 times. So I was playing one time and I wasn't really paying attention, and I unlocked a trophy and it said, "Oh, your combo has reached 25," and I was like, "What? How'd I get that high?" And I've tried to replicate it, and I have no idea how I did it because I've never gotten that high since. Um, but yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things. So you really have to consider which monster do you use first, and which attacks are you using, and really understanding what all the things are. One thing that I don't know how to do this on PC, but I noticed on the PlayStation, if you hit triangle, you can actually highlight all the buffs, and it'll give you little tool tips and tells you what everything means, so you can see what everything means and all
there is
that. And
there is that key on the Switch, I believe, because sometimes I hover over it and I don't know which button I'm pressing. I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can look at all their things. So I was using an ability on. I use the little mantis monster quite a bit, and he has this ability that, or she, I don't know, but it has this ability where it hits really hard. And I thought it was adding stacks of bleed, because what bleed does is at the end of the turn, it'll half your stacks and do damage based on how many stacks were just discarded. Um, and so I thought it was adding bleed, but it only added one at a time. And I was like, this is a big attack. Why isn't it adding bleed? But it actually adds a different a debuff that would make it that the next healing done to this monster is halved. So then I was like, oh, I've been using this ability completely wrong, because if there's one monster that they keep healing up, then I should just use this ability on it, and then they can't heal them so quickly. And um, it's complicated, and then there's a lot of luck to it too, because for example, sometimes I would get into a fight and they would just two-shot one of my monsters right off the bat, and then it was just a downhill slog from there. And then I get into the fight, and that time they instead of focusing on one monster, they distributed the damage across all three. And then I was fine. And because now I've had one round to buff everybody, and then from there on I can survive. And so there is an element of, it feels like there's an element of luck a lot of times, where you just have to jump into the fight 5 times, and eventually you'll get a good early engagement that benefits you long term.
Yeah, it really makes me think that this is like you need to sort of like the idea of like in min-maxing and having like the perfect build or doing something, or just not like what I do in these kinds of games. I just like, I want to play. So I just like, when I'm leveling up, I'm like, okay, this seems cool. Not really like sitting and thinking about it for 1 or 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, what is the plan for this guy? What does he do good? What does he do badly? Does he need more mana? Does he need more physical attack? Yeah, so it's cool. It's interesting. I'm gonna be interested to see if once you finish it, and then I'll have to, because I haven't deleted it off my Switch, so it's still there. So you've given me some ideas though. We'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd recommend is, like I was telling Korean, when I started off, I was swapping monsters out to kind of keep them all leveled. And I've now realized that whenever you capture a monster, it's at your level. So actually, you're better off just sticking with a team. Don't worry about swapping your monster. You keep your monsters around, because sometimes their overworld abilities can be very useful, such as the flying or the swimming or whatever they can allow you to do. So you can keep them around, but then when you but just keep 6 in your party, because those 6 will always get experience. Even if they die in that fight, they'll still get the experience for it. So just keep those guys in. And then, for instance, if you had, say, the little caterpillar thing, and you want to swap to the caterpillar, don't level up your old caterpillar. Just go to where you found it, catch a new one, and the new one will be at your current level. And you'll save yourself a ton of time, because you don't have to grind out for levels. So
That's some good advice.
yeah.
Okay, I think we should move
Move
on.
on. We talked quite a bit about monsters.
What's the section, right? So today we are going to be reacting to news, and we've tried our best to not read everything.
I've
And I
read
mean,
nothing.
yes, Adam is good because my habit is I have a bad habit when I wake up in the morning. The first thing as I do is look at the news. So I've read some of these, but um, maybe let's do it this way, Adam. You pick a story, I pick a story, and we can go from there.
Okay, let's see. Because we got a bunch of here. Here, well, I know you kind of liked the first one, so I'll save that one for you.
Sure, you can choose
But
anyone. I'm either anything. Like all of these are really interesting for me.
yeah, I'm just kind of looking through real quick. Like I said, I haven't read anything, so I'm reading the titles for the first time as well here. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything. What Disney can teach Microsoft in the gaming wars? That one looks interesting.
Okay.
All right, so we can use that. What can Disney teach Microsoft in the gaming wars? No, I haven't read the. Oh, look at that. There's a Final Fantasy reference right there on the front page. You must be really happy about that. That's Terra from Final Fantasy 6.
Well, thanks for
So
telling me because I had no idea.
yep, that's Terra from Final Fantasy 6. Let's see. So I mean, have you read? So you've read these, so you can tell me what they say, right? Because otherwise,
No,
we're
no,
gonna be reading them on air.
like I've read some of them, and some of them I know, some of them I like the Disney one I have not read.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's see. Microsoft Core paying 69 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard. Less risky than the alternative, building games from scratch. Ah, so this is kind of talking about right there the same thing. Picked up fan-friendly properties, Black Panther, Thor. Still Star Wars like franchises out there. Square Enix has not Final Fantasy Dragon Quest series. All right, so it looks like basically okay, so it looks like what this is basically saying is kind of the complaint about what some people were saying with Microsoft, where they're going for kind of that buy growth rather than the organic growth. And they're saying, well, look at Disney and look how well it worked for them. So that's a good idea. It seems like basically they're saying, yeah, acquisitions are your best friend is what it looks like it's saying right off the bat. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I think they're right. I think that's a perfectly from a business standpoint, I think that is 100% accurate and I think that that is very true. I don't like it, but I acknowledge that it is financially and from a business standpoint the correct answer. However, I don't like it because the it just stagnates things. It doesn't encourage innovation. It encourages basically you to just it's that whole thing where people are talking about like with movies with sequels. We don't get creative stuff anymore, right? Everything's just a sequel or a reboot, or you're just banking on already existing IPs, and basically that's what it's saying here is, with PlayStation we've gotten some great new games with Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn. These are new ideas that can be interesting. Uh, I wouldn't say necessarily Elden Ring is super unique and new because it's very much the Demon Souls formula, but it's a new world, it's new lore, it's all that. It's not just Dark Souls 4. They did try something new. So yeah, I like innovation. I like trying new things, and obviously, when I do like something, I do like to have a sequel because I like to come back and have more of the same. But yeah, the idea that they're saying, "Hey, this is a great business idea," is almost like saying, like, "No, you should totally do this. Just milk Metal Gear Solid for everything it's worth. Don't come up with new ideas. Don't come up with new IPs. Just let other people take the risks, and when it works out, just buy them." And it's kind of like, ah, no, that's so disappointing.
I mean, I think it's sort of maybe this goes into the business cycle idea of like at times when an industry is flush with cash, right? When it happens in like companies buy, and when there's like the economy is doing terrible or the global economy is not looking good, then companies sort of like divest and stuff. And in gaming, I think that's what I worry about. It's not like Disney's gonna let go of Marvel all of a sudden, right? I mean, that's not impossible, though. That could happen.
Hmm.
So I think it's a good idea because I think it's from a developer's perspective. It's like that's like sort of like starting out a company, doing a seed round of 5 million, 8 million, 10 million, early investor in, you know, XYZ company, and the company gets bought, and you get to cash out. And as a developer, you like that's a dream, right? You get bought out, you're interested in the company, you get like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, right? You've made it, right? You've got your safety net, and you're financially stable. But at the same time, yeah, what you've said about like you know innovation and stuff being stifled, it's like I can imagine as well. It's like you do the buyout, you stay with Microsoft or whoever it is, right? And then later on, 5 years down the line, like, yeah, things are not looking so good. We're gonna have to let you go. You've made your money, right? And but maybe you've lost your customers because they're no longer like, oh my god, this is like Dance Dance Revolution '72, and it's still pretty much the same thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think from a business point, it makes perfect sense, and I totally get it. And in some ways, it is good. It mentions here, Boba Fett,